I've picked the 7 men in F1 I believe matter most. And the argument here isn't that these are simply the 7 greatest names in the sport's history. It's that each one of them rewrote a completely different operating system inside it. Before Michael Schumacher, Formula 1 drivers were expected to be fast. After Michael Schumacher, fast was no longer enough. He won 7 world championships, 91 races and 68 pole positions.
Those numbers made him one of the greatest drivers in history. But numbers are not the main reason he changed Formula 1. Schumacher changed the basic idea of what an F1 driver was supposed to do. In earlier eras, drivers could rely more heavily on instinct, courage and natural speed. Some trained seriously, of course, and Ayrton Senna had already pushed physical preparation forward. Schumacher took that idea and turned it into a complete system. He ran, swam, followed a tailored fitness program, and even travelled with a mobile gym. He was not preparing merely to survive a race. He wanted to remain physically sharp enough to produce qualifying level laps deep into it when his rivals were tired and their concentration was beginning to fall. But his influence went much further than fitness. Schumacher did not behave like an employee who arrived, drove the car and went home. He placed himself near the centre of the entire operation.
At Ferrari, he became part of a group with Jean Todt, Ross Brawn and Rory Byrne that rebuilt the most famous team in Formula 1. Schumacher joined Ferrari in 1996 and accepted that the car was not immediately ready. He tested relentlessly, helped set standards and gave the team a clear centre of gravity. Ferrari's people were not simply building a fast car, they were building a championship machine around one driver's feedback, work rate and competitive obsession. The results were extraordinary.
Ferrari won 6 consecutive constructors' titles from 1999 to 2004, while Schumacher won 5 consecutive drivers' championships from 2000 to 2004. The driver was no longer just one component inside the team. He could become its leader, its reference point, and almost its organising principle. There was an ugly side to that model. Ferrari's decision to order Rubens Barrichello aside in Austria in 2002 showed how completely the team had been arranged around Schumacher.
His title-deciding collisions in 1994 and 1997 also left permanent marks on his reputation. Schumacher professionalised the driver, but he also normalised a ruthless idea. If the entire organisation existed to win the championship, almost everything could be justified in service of that goal.
Can any driver today dominate Formula 1 the way you did? Can somebody like Lewis pick up a world title and then get 7 world titles, or is that something that's just beyond the bounds of the modern age?
I would say absolutely yes.
But if Schumacher changed how a driver worked, Lewis Hamilton changed what a driver could be. Hamilton's place in this story begins with results. 7 world championships, the all-time record for Grand Prix victories. For more than a decade, he was one of the most successful racing drivers the sport had ever seen. Formula 1 had famous drivers before Hamilton, but their public identities were still primarily built through racing. Hamilton gradually built something more independent. He became a public figure with his own visual identity, business interests and cultural weight. He did not merely wear the team uniform and appear in sponsor advertisements. He treated the paddock entrance like a public stage. Fashion became part of how he communicated. But at first, parts of Formula 1 did treat it as a distraction. During the 2016 season, Hamilton's travel, celebrity friends and public lifestyle was sometimes used as evidence that he was losing focus. That criticism now feels important because it reveals the old expectation. A driver could be rich and famous, but he was still supposed to look as if racing consumed every visible part of his personality. Hamilton rejected that bargain and continued winning. His career proved that a driver could operate at the highest level while also becoming a fashion figure, producer, investor and independent brand. He co-designed the Tommy X Lewis collections with Tommy Hilfiger. Lewis Hamilton Ventures grew to manage projects across racing, partnerships, fashion, film, and media. He helped produce the F1 feature film and used his experience to improve its authenticity. In 2025, he co-chaired the Met Gala and appeared on the cover of Vogue.
The scale of the reaction to his Ferrari move showed how far that influence had spread. When the news emerged in February 2024, it did not feel like a normal transfer between teams. It became a worldwide entertainment story. The most successful driver of his generation was joining the most famous team in motorsport, and the combination produced the kind of public shock usually reserved for football superstars or major celebrity news. Hamilton, therefore, changed the job description. A driver could still belong to Mercedes, McLaren, or Ferrari, but he could also own an identity larger than the team. Today, younger drivers are far more comfortable building personal brands, choosing distinctive styles, and speaking directly to audiences. Hamilton did not invent celebrity, but he showed that an F1 driver could become an original global phenomenon rather than simply the famous face of a constructor.
Lewis Hamilton's still very much in that mix, as dangerous a threat to you as those others?
Of course he is. I mean, he's been one of the greatest drivers ever in the sports.
However, Max Verstappen changed something completely different. He changed how quickly Formula One was willing to create a new star. Verstappen arrived in Formula One at 17 years old. His age sounded like a marketing stunt, but it exposed a serious problem for the sport. Formula One had always celebrated young talent, yet no one had seriously planned for a teenager to jump from one season of car racing into the World Championship. The gamble was enormous.
Modern F1 cars are brutally fast, technically complicated, and driven in a field where a small error can affect several people. Verstappen clearly had extraordinary ability, but the question was bigger than whether he personally was good enough. If Red Bull could promote one 17-year-old, what would stop another team from rushing a less prepared teenager into Formula One simply to secure him before a rival did? The FIA answered almost immediately. A new super license system was announced for 2016.
Drivers generally had to be at least 18, spend at least 2 years in junior single-seaters, pass a regulations test, and collect enough points through recognised championships. The system became widely understood as the Verstappen rule, because it would have prevented the exact path Verstappen had just taken. That alone earned him a place among the people who changed F1. Then he justified the gamble. After only 23 races with Toro Rosso, Red Bull promoted him to the senior team. He won on his debut for Red Bull in Spain in 2016, becoming the youngest Grand Prix winner at 18 years and 228 days. What had looked reckless suddenly looked visionary. His later championships changed the argument again. Verstappen was not a teenage publicity stunt who survived long enough to become competent. He became a 4-time world champion. His success encouraged teams to trust youth, shorten apprenticeships, and treat exceptional junior drivers as assets that had to be moved quickly.
Yet the regulation remained as a warning against copying the process too casually. In 2024, the FIA softened the age restriction and allowed exceptional 17-year-olds to receive a super license at its discretion. But regulations do not always arrive because someone succeeds. Sometimes they arrive because the sport has been forced to see the cost of doing nothing.
Do you know that you are writing the history? Because with 8 consecutive pole positions, you are equal to a legend of our sport, Ayrton Senna. How does it feel? Because this is history for motorsport.
Yeah, it's of course a great start to the year, but also very special.
Ayrton Senna was already one of Formula One's greatest drivers before his final race.
He won 3 world championships, 41 Grand Prix, and 65 pole positions from only 161 starts. He produced 8 consecutive poles and 7 consecutive poles at Imola. Even in the difficult Williams of 1994, he put the car on pole at each of the first 3 races.
his speed could look almost unreasonable. Qualifying was where the legend became clearest, because it removed most excuses. Fuel loads were low, the track was open, and the driver had one task: find the maximum possible lap. Senna repeatedly found a limit that other great drivers could not reach. That is one half of his place in F1 history. The other half began on May 1st, 1994. Senna's fatal crash at Imola forced Formula One to confront a culture it had carried for decades. Motor racing had always been dangerous, and danger was often treated not simply as an unavoidable fact, but as part of the sport's identity. The drivers were brave because they accepted it.
Organisers were rarely expected to remove every obvious risk.
Death was mourned, but the championship continued. After Imola, that fatalism became harder to defend. The FIA moved quickly on circuit changes, high-risk corners, tyre barrier testing, pit lane speeds, and helmet standards. The cars were changed as well. Downforce was cut, stepped floors arrived, and safety became a permanent engineering program, rather than a reaction that faded once the immediate shock had passed. It would be wrong to claim Senna personally invented F1 safety.
Work had been done before him, and the modern system was built by engineers, doctors, regulators, and drivers over many years. But the effect can be seen in what happened 20 years later. The halo became mandatory in 2018. It was criticised for its appearance, just as many safety changes are criticised when they first alter the traditional shape of a racing car. Then, it began protecting drivers in major accidents, and the aesthetic argument became almost irrelevant.
I hear Ferrari are not going to develop the car anymore this year.
How do you know that, Murray?
Because I was there when I said it.
Safety made it possible for the sport to keep pushing. Ross Brawn showed how to turn that pushing into a repeatable method of winning. Brawn belongs on this list because he may be the greatest strategist the sport has ever produced. But his real contribution went far beyond clever pit stops. He changed how teams were organised, how decisions were made, and how engineering, statistics, tyre data, race tactics, and driver performance were brought together into one championship-winning system. Before Brawn, strategy could still feel like instinct, an experienced team boss watching the race and making a brave decision. Brawn made it mathematical. Every pit stop, fuel load, tyre choice, and target lap time became part of a larger calculation. The engineers produced the information, the strategists modelled the possibilities, the pit wall made the decision, and the driver received a precise task. Hungary in 1998 became the perfect example. Ferrari could not pass the faster McLarens normally, so Brawn changed Michael Schumacher from a 2-stop strategy to 3 stops. That would only work if Schumacher immediately produced an extraordinary sequence of laps. The message was simple. He needed roughly 19 qualifying laps. Schumacher delivered them, created the required gap, and won the race. It looked like a moment of genius. But that was exactly Brawn's point. The decision was not a guess. That process helped transform Ferrari. When Brawn joined, the team possessed enormous money, talent, and political power, but it was still capable of chaos. Alongside Jean Todt, Rory Byrne, and Schumacher, Brawn helped turn it into the most organised winning machine Formula One had seen. At the end of 2008, Honda abandoned Formula One during the financial crisis. Hundreds of jobs were at risk. The new car had no confirmed future, and the team appeared ready to disappear. Brawn led a management buyout, acquired the operation for the symbolic price of £1, and became its controlling owner with a 54% stake. The car had been developed under Honda and possessed the controversial double diffuser, but having a clever car was only the beginning. Brawn had to keep the factory alive, reduce the workforce, secure Mercedes engines, prepare for the season with almost no testing, and somehow run a championship campaign with far fewer resources than Ferrari, McLaren, or Red Bull.
Brawn GP won its first race with a 1-2 finish. Jenson Button won 6 of the first 7 Grand Prix. As richer rivals copied the diffuser and developed their cars, Brawn's early advantage began to disappear. Still, it managed to secure the championship. Mercedes then bought 75.1% of Brawn GP and transformed it into its new works team. Brawn remained team principal through the difficult rebuilding seasons from 2010 to 2013. He also helped persuade Lewis Hamilton to leave McLaren and join Mercedes, one of the most important driver transfers in Formula One history. Brawn was gone before Mercedes began its championship run in 2014, so he cannot receive all the credit for what followed. Toto Wolff, Niki Lauda and the enormous technical organisation built the dominant team of that era. But Brawn changed strategy from something a clever person occasionally produced into something an entire organisation continuously performed. And that's exactly what Mercedes kept doing for the next 10 years.
Unbelievable. I'm dying to get a shot of you and him standing side by side. Look, that's got to be the shot. That's the shot we've been looking for all weekend. That is really sweet. We're going back to...
But if Brawn built championship machines inside Formula One, Bernie Ecclestone turned Formula One itself into one. Before Ecclestone, the World Championship was prestigious but fragmented. Race organisers controlled their events, television coverage could be inconsistent. Broadcasters might show selected races rather than treat the season as one continuous product. Teams had power, but they did not always negotiate together. Ecclestone understood that the championship would become far more valuable if it was packaged centrally. Instead of selling a collection of separate Grand Prix, he could sell Formula One. His rise through the Formula One Constructors Association and the politics surrounding the Concorde Agreement gave him control over the sport's commercial affairs. He negotiated television deals, organised the championship as a complete broadcast package, and pushed for broadcasters to cover every round. The product became predictable. One season, one global calendar, the same teams and stars appearing repeatedly in front of an international audience. That consistency created enormous value. Sponsors could buy into a worldwide platform. Promoters wanted the status of hosting a Grand Prix. Television rights became a major source of income. Formula One changed from a dangerous European racing series with international events into a global media property. Ecclestone centralised power with extraordinary effectiveness. That made the sport richer, but it also created the main criticism of his rule. Ecclestone could optimise the business more aggressively than the audience experience. Hosting fees pushed the calendar toward governments and promoters able to pay. Movement toward pay television increased rights income in some markets, while reducing the number of people who could watch freely. When Liberty Media completed its takeover in 2017, it thanked Ecclestone for creating a remarkable global sport. It inherited the basic commercial machine Bernie had assembled, central rights, global contracts, premium hosting, and a championship sold as year-round entertainment. But before anyone could sell F1 as the most advanced racing championship in the world, someone had to keep reinventing what an F1 car actually was.
What do you think of this impressive run by Red Bull Racing?
I think they've been lucky.
That man was Adrian Newey. His cars have won 12 Constructors' Championships with Williams, McLaren and Red Bull. More importantly, he has remained successful through completely different technical eras. His first major statement was the March 881 in 1988. Its Judd engine was underpowered, so Newey could not rely on horsepower. The car had to recover the difference through aerodynamic efficiency. He made it compact, light and tightly packaged with an integrated front wing and nose designed to feed cleaner air beneath the car. It never won a race, but it helped establish the basic philosophy that would define the next generation of Formula One. At Williams, Newey took that philosophy further. He did not invent active suspension, but he understood its aerodynamic value better than almost anyone. The system could keep the car at exactly the right height and angle, allowing the wings and floor to work inside a much narrower and more powerful operating window. On the straights, the rear could even be lowered to reduce drag. Then Newey moved to McLaren and faced another major regulation change in 1998. The cars became narrower and switched to grooved tyres. His response was the MP413, with its long wheelbase, low centre of gravity and tightly controlled airflow. McLaren immediately won both championships.
But his greatest influence came at Red Bull. When the aerodynamic regulations changed in 2009, Newey reorganised the entire rear of the car. The pull rod suspension allowed the gearbox and bodywork to be packaged lower and more tightly, leaving cleaner space for the diffuser. The car also used an increasingly aggressive rake, with the rear running higher than the front to increase the performance of the floor. Red Bull won 4 consecutive championships with Sebastian Vettel. Rivals copied its concepts, while regulators repeatedly changed the rules to restrict them. That pattern would return in 2022, when Formula One brought back full ground effect cars. Several teams found enormous theoretical performance, but struggled to control it. Their cars bounced, lost stability, and only worked inside narrow setup windows. So his RB18 produced strong downforce without suffering from the same level of porpoising that damaged several rivals. The RB19 developed the idea further. It won 21 of 22 races in 2023. Every time Formula One changed its rules, Newey seemed to understand the new type of car before almost everyone else. That is why he is the right person to end with. Schumacher changed the athlete. Hamilton changed the celebrity. Verstappen changed the pathway. Senna changed the attitude to danger. Brawn changed the method of winning. Ecclestone changed the business. Adrian Newey changed the machine that made all of it possible. Let me know who should be added to this list in the comments. I'm sure you'll have a lot of opinions about this one. And don't forget to subscribe.